Hello, fellow classmates. Today I am going to talk about the community readiness model. The community readiness model is based on the idea that communities are kind of like people. They're constantly changing. They're not static entities. So some communities may be more ready for change than others. The community readiness model describes 9 stages of community readiness for change. According to Kelly, Edwards, Cornella, Plested, Jumper, Thurman, and Slater, in their 2003 article entitled The Community Readiness Model, a Complementary Approach to Social Marketing, these stages are 1, no awareness, where a community has no awareness of the health issue. Number 2 is denial or resistance of the health issue. Stage 3 is vague awareness of the health issue. Stage 4 is a pre-planning stage where the community is starting to prepare to address the health issue. Stage 5 is the actual preparation. Stage 6 is initiation of the measures that the community is going to take in order to address the health issue. Stage 7 is stabilization of the programming that they're using, the types of interventions that they're using. Stage 8 is confirmation and expansion of the interventions. And stage 9 is a high level of community ownership of addressing the health issues. So in order to implement the community readiness model, the researchers need to conduct interviews with 4 or 5 key informants in order to examine 5 or 6 key dimensions of community readiness. In their 2013 article, using the community readiness model as an approach to formative evaluation, Jarpy, Ratner, Fagan, Day, Gilmet, Prudowski, Nazier, Dubois, and Flay state that the developers of the community readiness model wanted a multidimensional model to address different areas where the communities might vary in their readiness to implement change. And these areas of variation include 1, knowledge of efforts, 2, leadership or capacity for leadership, 3, the community climate, 4 would be knowledge of the issue, general knowledge of the issue, and 5 would be resources available to address the issue. So in their 2003 article on the community readiness model, Kelly, Edwards, Cornella, Plested, Jumper, Thurman, and Slater state that the key informant information is used to make various decisions about the program development, implementation, and evaluation. So therefore, the key informant interview information really is used to help to design a community-level intervention for a health problem. So the community readiness model was developed in the early 1990s by researchers at the Tri-Ethnic Center for Prevention Research at Colorado State University. It was developed when the researchers at the Tri-Ethnic Center noticed that the responses of different communities to the same type of intervention used for the same health problem was varied. They realized that this variation in responses was similar to individuals' responses to change. So they decided that the trans-theoretical model, which designates stages of readiness for change in individuals, would be a good model on which to base their model of community readiness for change. However, they also incorporated theories of community development to make their model more appropriate for communities. So a primary strength of the community readiness model is its ability to focus limited funding on areas that are most likely to produce change in a targeted community. To put that another way, basically the community readiness model helps to avoid funding programs that are unlikely to work in a certain community because it's not ready for that type of program. Another strength of the community readiness model is that it is a community-based model, which is to say the information is really gained from key informants in the community, so it's more likely to reflect the actual needs of the target community. A third strength of the community readiness model is that it incorporates a socio-ecological perspective on the determinants of health. So that means that a program developed using the community readiness model will be able to really address behavior change on several levels at one time, including individual, social, and environmental levels, and that's going to make success of the program more likely. One weakness of the community readiness model that really stood out to me was the fact that the assessment of the entire community is based on only 4 to 5 interviews of key informants. In their 2000 article, Community Readiness Research to Practice, Edwards, Jumper Thurman, Plested, Edding, and Swanson say that they have found that this is usually enough to conduct the assessment. However, they do admit that in some communities there may be different subpopulations which require a separate assessment. Nonetheless, I really felt like that relying on such a small number of individuals, especially with no standard protocol for identifying the sources or key informants, really could potentially lead to a skewed view of the community's level of readiness. So it seems to me it would be better to include some other measures besides key informant interviews in order to obtain a more accurate understanding of the community's level of readiness. And a second disadvantage of the community readiness model is that it really isn't very practical to use after a program has already been designed and implemented, since it's focused on determining what type of program would really be most effective for a given community. If the community readiness model is not used in developing a program, but rather implemented later in the process, it may be discovered that the type of program that is being used or implemented is really inappropriate for the community's stage of readiness. So if that type of information comes to light, the program really would need to be completely revamped in order to address the findings of the community readiness model review. And that's something that I found in one of the articles that I did read in preparation for my paper. This concludes my information about the community readiness model, and I hope that's very informative for you. Good night.